I'm Ilene Power. I'm a producer in California, producer of television shows for movies and miniseries for cable and streaming and network. And I want to share with you very quickly a few things not to do in a pitch meeting. So, number one, don't sit in the wrong chair. When you get into the room, this is really important. This may be the number one thing when you set up the pitch. Make sure that if the assistant is there before the executive is coming in or the team is coming in, ask them where do they usually like to sit. Don't just plunk yourself down with whoever you're with, a writer or your partner. Make sure that you orchestrate it properly. They'll ask you if you want water or coffee, but definitely take your cues from where they like to sit. You can say, where do they like to sit? And then you would choreograph it so that you're in direct line so that the decision maker hears it. But you may not know in that constellation who the decision maker is. So you'll have to feel it out. And don't assume that they know who you are, even though that meeting will have been set up and they've already predetermined that they want to hear your pitch generally. But be prepared to reintroduce yourself because they have a million people that they're seeing, and you can hand them a card so that they have your name in front of them. I do that sometimes. So that's number one. But where you sit, very important. If you're there with a writer and you're the producer who sets it all up, make sure that the writer is closer to the decision maker. That's how I usually do it. Number two, don't display anxiety even if you feel it. I mean, of course your heart will be pounding or you'll be thinking, have fun with it. Think about it as just another opportunity, but don't display the anxiety you feel. And definitely, even though you may have pitched this 1,000 times, try not to indicate impatience and rush through it. Very important. They're hearing it for the first and perhaps only time. Number three, when you're setting it up, don't trash other television shows. Try not to do it in a negative light. Try to do it in a positive light. So if you're saying, well, it's like a female Game of Thrones, or however you position it, make sure that you liken it to hit shows, not to shows that didn't work, to try to make your show look better. And so don't compare it in a negative light. Number four is important. Don't start the pitch before the executive is ready. There will be a little warm-up as everyone settles into their seat. Be sure that you'll take your cue from them. They may say, okay, let's hear what you've got, after you've shared some personal chit-chat, but not too personal. Number five, don't get too personal in the warm-up to the pitch. You don't have to say, oh my God, my grandmother's in the hospital, but I really wanted to be here today. They don't want to know that, and you want to give just enough, but did you go to the march on Saturday? Or if it's an election time, oh, we live in crazy times, don't we? And then you can segue in. But you don't need to be too personal. Number six, don't argue or get too defensive. If the executive is listening and then is unsure about something or gives you some negative feedback that you don't agree with, make sure that you don't fight with them. You could always say, let me think about that. It's really important not to get argumentative. I was in a pitch once, we had almost sold it, and the writer was so anxiety-ridden and was so sensitive to any negative feedback that he argued with the executive who was about to buy it. And we got feedback later that they thought he was too unstable. So you don't really need to argue, even if you feel it and you don't agree with them. It's just another opportunity, and you know that when you're pitching, you're going to be rejected far more times than not. So you have to develop a very thick skin. So no arguing. Number 7, when you're in the middle of your pitch, you know it very well, but don't talk too fast. You want to get it out, and you probably want it to be over because you've heard it so many times and you hate the sound of your voice. Don't use jargon or words or technical terms that they won't know, because it'll stop the flow of them imagining how it would work for them and their network or their studio. So don't get too technical and assume that they know it. Not to talk too fast. Number 8. I guess I covered this in another way, but don't compare your show to one that's been canceled or known. Know the marketplace. When you walk into a pitch, certainly know what the programming is for that network. You will know that if it's HBO, the shows that they make. If it's another network, you know what they're doing. It's really important that you know that. Know the network or the studio's current slate of films and programming. And my last one for the day, we have many more, but my last one for the day is don't sweat, literally. Try not to. Do biofeedback, whatever it takes not to sweat. Don't act inappropriately. You don't need to use really vulgar language, or don't act overly familiar. You can find common ground. Maybe you went to the same college, but if you went to Harvard, probably best not to lead with that. Don't act desperate or weird, but do try to have fun with it and smile. That's it. Those are my tips for the day. Bye.